My name is Rosa Spencer. I am 29 years old, and this is the story of the night my entire life fractured in a single suffocating moment. People like to talk about turning points as if they arrive, gently giving warnings, leaving clues. But mine didn't. Mine arrived, laughing, clutching a cocktail glass wrapped around the arm of the woman my boyfriend told me never to worry about. 4 years earlier, I had fallen in love with him the way people fall asleep slowly, then all at once, believing every soft promise he whispered. His name was Lucas, a charming, impulsive man who lived life like a sparkler, bright, chaotic, dying too fast. I was the steady one, an analyst who lived by structure, quiet mornings, spreadsheets, budgets, routines that comforted me more than any party ever could. We were opposites. I thought that made us balanced. Now I see it only made me easier to take for granted. In the beginning, Lucas told me I was his anchor. Back when he lost his job after a startup collapsed, I stepped in without hesitation. I covered his rent for 3 months, helped rewrite his resume, drilled him with mock interviews until midnight. There was a night I'll never forget, his head in my lap, tears slipping into my jeans as he whispered, "Rosa, you're my rock. I don't deserve you." I had believed him. I had believed everything. I wasn't flashy, but I showed up. I cooked dinners after his long days, bought tickets to the concerts he loved, paid for a weekend getaway last Christmas, even though money was tight. I even moved us into a new apartment closer to his new job just to make his commute easier. I sacrificed pieces of myself inch by inch, convinced it was what love required. But things changed silently at first. Lucas started hanging out with new colleagues, loud, reckless types who lived on gossip and nightlife. He'd stumble home past midnight, smelling of cheap perfume and expensive cocktails, brushing off my questions. "Networking," he'd say. "Don't worry so much." But there was always someone at the center of his stories. A woman. Her name was Adriana. Tall, gym-toned, loud laughter, perfect hair. "She's just a friend," he insisted the first time I asked, pausing just long enough for doubt to root itself. Still, I trusted him, because love makes fools brave. It all crashed on the night of Mike's birthday, the friend whose social circle had become ours over the years. I had bought a new dress, practiced small talk, told myself it would be fun. The bar was crowded, dim lights flashing across half-drunk strangers. Lucas disappeared into the crowd instantly, while I lingered with a drink, chatting politely with old acquaintances. An hour in, he waved me over to a booth crammed with his friends, including her. Adriana. She sat at the center, like a queen, legs crossed, nails tapping against her glass. Lucas had his arm around her shoulders, laughing at something she said, too relaxed, too familiar. Unease prickled the back of my neck. I walked up with a smile that felt glued on. "Hey, Lucas, who is this?" He turned to me, eyes too bright from alcohol or adrenaline, I couldn't tell. "Oh, Rosa, this is Adriana. You know, the girl I told you not to worry about." He said it jokingly, but the crowd leaned in like it was a punchline. Adriana flashed a smirk, tilting her head. "So you're Rosa. Cute." The table snickered. My stomach dropped. I forced a polite nod. "Nice to meet you." But before I could slide into the booth, Lucas laughed at a volume meant to be heard. "Actually, my friends think you're kind of boring." He shrugged, like it was a fact printed on a medical chart. "You're always at home organizing your life to death while we're out having fun. You don't exactly fit the vibe." The air went thin. Heat rushed to my cheeks, but I didn't move. Jess, one of the girls from his office, added softly, "No offense, Rosa, but Lucas is the adventurous type. You're very safe." Safe. It sounded like an insult delivered with manicured pity. Lucas leaned closer to Adriana, his voice dripping with careless cruelty. "Honestly, Rosa, you hold me back. Adriana pushes me. She's exciting." Adriana giggled, leaning into him like she'd already won. It felt like watching my relationship get dismantled by people who didn't even know me. I swallowed hard. "Lucas, can we talk alone?" He cut me off with a dismissive flick of his wrist. "No need. I've been thinking about this for a while. You cling too much. And I'm tired." Then, with a cruel smirk, "I deserve someone who makes me feel alive." The table hummed with approval. Something in me cracked. Not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet snapping deep inside. I stood slowly. "Okay." My voice barely rose above the music. "Enjoy your night." I didn't cry, didn't shout, didn't break a single glass. I simply turned and walked out through the bar, past the neon lights, past the drunk laughter, out into the cold night air that felt cleaner than anything I'd breathed in months. Lucas didn't follow. No one did. And that was how everything began, my humiliation, my disappearance, and his eventual collapse. But in that moment, all I felt was a hollow, ringing silence as I stepped into the dark, leaving behind a version of myself I would never return to. I didn't remember the drive home. I only remembered the silence, the kind that feels like grief wearing a mask. When I unlocked the door to our apartment, the place felt foreign, like it belonged to strangers. His jacket on the chair, his shoes by the door, his cologne lingering faintly in the air. A ghost of a life I thought we were building together. I sat on the couch without turning on the lights. No tears, no screaming, just numbness settling into my bones. Shock protects you at first. It keeps your heart from shattering too fast. But it doesn't last. By morning, the reality hit like a violent wave. I woke up with the kind of headache grief causes, the kind that feels like pressure behind your eyes. My phone was buzzing on the nightstand. Dozens of notifications. Not from Lucas, from everyone else. Jess. Last night was messy, but honestly, Lucas had a point. Mark. You were overreacting. Kim. You embarrassed him leaving like that. Mike. What the hell happened? Lucas is pissed. Every message, every tone twisted the knife deeper. They weren't neutral. They weren't confused. They were choosing sides, and it wasn't mine. Not even close. I didn't reply. I blocked every single one of them. Then I blocked Lucas. Then Adriana. Then their entire friend group. Then the group chats. Then the backup group chats. My fingers were trembling, but the purge felt necessary. Survival required disconnect. Next, I grabbed cardboard boxes and began packing every trace of Lucas' clothes, shoes, old trophies, that half-finished course book he promised he'd complete. I taped the boxes shut, hauled them downstairs, and left them with the building manager. He can pick them up from you, I said. The manager nodded, no questions asked. I appreciated that. Then I changed the locks. It wasn't dramatic, it was self-defense. The days after blurred together. I went to work, but my mind was fogged. I stared at spreadsheets without absorbing a single number. Sometimes I'd forget whether I'd eaten. Sometimes I'd remember too clearly and feel sick. Worse were the doubts. Was I too boring, too predictable? Did I hold him back? The questions echoed, like they were carved into the walls. Flashbacks attacked at random. The night I covered his rent because he was ashamed to ask his family. The morning I woke early to make him breakfast before an interview. The weekend getaway I planned even when he'd brushed off the idea. All the whispered thank yous. All the reassurances that I was what he needed. Gaslighting is terrifying because it doesn't start with outright lies. It starts with tiny seeds of doubt planted slowly over months. I realized how many times he'd dismissed my concerns with condescension. How many times he'd framed my stability as a flaw. How many times he'd made chaos sound like passion. The breakup wasn't a sudden explosion. It was a slow poisoning I ignored. 3 days in, I booked a virtual therapy session. I didn't want to unspool alone. The therapist listened quietly as I described the party, the humiliation, the aftermath. When I finished, she said only one thing. You gave him loyalty he never earned. It was simple, but something inside me shifted. That night I made a decision. If Lucas wanted freedom, I would give him silence. Total, impenetrable silence. No messages, no calls, no attempts to understand, fix, or negotiate. I disappeared from his world entirely, not out of spite, out of necessity. In that quiet, something unexpected happened. My peace began to return molecule by molecule. I started going to the gym again, not to be exciting or alpha or whatever nonsense he idolized, just to feel my body grounded, the burn of muscles clearing grief. I returned to hiking to those long trails that used to calm me before Lucas insisted we spend weekends at loud bars instead. I picked up new projects at work. I even agreed to join a small coding meetup group. Little by little, my life stopped feeling like it belonged to someone else. Then, weeks later, the final shift occurred. The director at my company approached me with an offer, the promotion I had turned down months earlier because Lucas didn't want to move or adjust his schedule for my career. This time I said yes. Higher pay, flexible hours, a team that respected me, a future that wasn't tethered to someone who saw me as a weight. But right when everything began falling into place, when my nights were finally quiet and my mornings no longer filled with dread, something started happening behind the scenes, something I didn't yet know about. The karma chain. Lucas's perfect life wasn't just crumbling, it was imploding. and I was about to hear every piece of it whether I wanted to or not. It started with a coincidence, the kind that feels scripted, even though life rarely gives us poetic timing. I was in a coffee shop on a Saturday morning, laptop open, reviewing a proposal for my new role. The smell of roasted beans, the quiet chatter, the mellow playlist, everything felt clean and ordinary, peaceful. Then someone said my name, Rosa. I looked up to see Tom, an old college friend I hadn't seen in years. Not part of Lucas's circle, a genuinely good person. We hugged, caught up, exchanged the usual questions about work and life. I felt normal, functional, human in a way I hadn't for months. We sat down with our drinks, and after a few minutes, he leaned in slightly. "So, I heard you and Lucas ended things." I froze, not with fear, but with that cold prick of anticipation. I nodded. "Yeah." It wasn't exactly mutual. Tom exhaled. I figured. Mike mentioned something, and honestly, it sounded insane. Mike, the birthday party starter. The guy whose event had detonated my life. Tom continued, his voice dropping. "Listen, I don't want to pry, but Lucas is going through hell, and honestly, it sounds like karma." My stomach tightened. I didn't ask for details, but I didn't stop him either. Apparently, not even a month after our breakup, the perfect alpha girl, Adriana, dropped Lucas. Hard. She'd been seeing someone else the whole time, a personal trainer from another gym, and Lucas wasn't just the side piece, he was the backup plan she kept warm for attention. When he confronted her, she called him clingy, which made me laugh in a bitter, cathartic way. Lucas clingy. The man who told me I was too attached. The irony sliced so perfectly, it almost felt unreal. But it got worse for him. Tom explained that Adriana convinced Lucas to co-sign a personal loan for a crypto investment she swore was guaranteed. It tanked. Overnight. Adriana blocked him everywhere and vanished with her other boyfriend before Lucas even understood what happened. He was left with the debt. I blinked. He co-signed a loan with a woman he barely knew. Tom shrugged. Apparently she had him wrapped around her finger. Everyone said he was acting reckless, bragging about taking risks and living boldly. Living boldly. The same phrase he used to mock my safe life. Then came the fallout at work. Lucas and Adriana's situationship had spilled into the office. HR got involved. Complaints. Accusations. Professional boundaries crossed. Lucas wasn't fired, but he got frozen out of big projects. His reputation tanked. "People are distancing themselves," Tom added. Jess bailed first after Lucas asked her for a loan. Mark said he's tired of the lies. And Mike... Tom hesitated. Mike told him straight up that trash-talking you to impress Adriana was pathetic. My eyebrows rose. Mike said that? Yeah. The whole group realized he'd been spinning stories to justify cheating. And when everything fell apart, he tried playing the victim. They're not buying it. A strange feeling settled in my chest. Not joy, not satisfaction. Something quieter, more solemn. Justice. Not revenge, just justice. It continued. Lucas couldn't afford his rent. Rumor was he moved in with his sister temporarily because he had nowhere else to go. His social circle, the same people who laughed when he humiliated me, slowly peeled away as the truth about the party night leaked out. Someone from the bar had recorded a snippet, the tone he used, the laughter, the cruelty. It circulated. Silent accountability. Tom finished his coffee and sighed. Honestly, Rosa, everyone's saying you dodged a disaster. He spiraled hard. I nodded slowly. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel sorry for him either. I felt free, because for the first time I realized I wasn't the boring one. I wasn't the safe drawback. I was the stability he couldn't match, the loyalty he didn't deserve, the partner he mistook for a crutch. In losing me, Lucas lost the last person willing to steady him. The following weeks were a kind of rebirth. Therapy sessions snapped puzzle pieces into place. My hikes felt lighter. My coding meetup group became a small circle of real friends, the kind who didn't need drama to bond. And for the first time in a long time, I found myself laughing without fear that someone would twist it into a flaw. My life was growing in the direction I always wanted, but had paused because of him. But Lucas wasn't finished with me. Because karma doesn't only unravel people who caused harm, it often drives them to desperation. And desperate people always come back. The first message arrived one afternoon while I was at the gym. A number I didn't recognize, a short, simple text. Rosa, it's Lucas. Can we talk? Just like that, as if he hadn't ripped me apart piece by piece in front of a room full of people. As if he hadn't chosen the woman he swore was nothing. as if I owed him my attention. I deleted the message. But that was only the beginning. The problem with blocking someone everywhere is that you never consider the obscure numbers, forgotten emails, or dusty apps you haven't opened in years. Desperation always finds a crack. A week after that first ignored text, the calls began. Unknown numbers, voicemails that grew increasingly frantic. Rosa, please pick up. I need to explain. Rosa, it wasn't like that. Adriana, she lied to me. Please, Rosa, I'm falling apart. I listened to none of them. Delete, delete, delete. Silence is powerful, and I wasn't trading mine for chaos. When calling didn't work, he turned to email. Subject, please, just 5 minutes. Subject, I miss you. Subject, we had something real. A flood of nostalgia-laced paragraphs. He brought up the weekend getaway I'd saved for, the dinners I cooked, the nights I held him when failure crushed him. The same things he mocked the night he crushed me. Now those memories were sacred again because he needed something. I blocked the email, but Lucas wasn't done. When the pleas failed, guilt-tripping arrived right on schedule. Another burner number, another text. You walked away like I was nothing. How can you be so cold? Cold, as if I hadn't been humiliated in front of 20 people while he draped himself over another woman. Still, I blocked it. Then came the part I didn't expect: his family. His older sister Fiona found me through a professional networking platform I hadn't used in years. Her message was as condescending as I remembered her being at holidays. Rosa, be an adult. Lucas made a mistake. Everyone does. You ghosting him is petty. He needs help with finances now that Adriana scammed him. The least you can do is talk to him after everything he did for you. Everything he did for me, I almost laughed. Then his mother left a voicemail from an unknown number, her voice dripping with martyrdom. Young lady families should support each other. Lucas is suffering. You have always been the sensible one. Call him and help him through this. Be the bigger person. Bigger person. The phrase manipulators love because it always benefits them, never you. I blocked them all, but Lucas escalated again. He showed up at my old apartment. The building manager told him I'd moved. He allegedly had a meltdown in the lobby. I wasn't surprised. For people like Lucas, consequences always feel like betrayal. I thought that was the peak. I was wrong. One Tuesday afternoon, during lunch break, I walked out of my office building and froze. Standing by the entrance, leaning against the railing, was Lucas. Thinner than before, messier. Eyes ringed with exhaustion. Clothes wrinkled, hair unwashed. A ghost of the man who once mocked me for not being exciting enough. He spotted me instantly and rushed over. Rosa, finally. He grabbed my arm lightly but urgently. Can we please talk? I stepped back. No, we cannot. Please. His voice cracked. Everything went downhill after the party. Adriana cheated. She stole money. I lost my job opportunities. Everyone abandoned me. I'm drowning. Every sentence was a confession disguised as a plea. He waited for sympathy. I felt none. You humiliated me in front of everyone, I said calmly. You called me boring. Held her while you broke up with me like it was entertainment. He swallowed hard. I was drunk. I was stupid. I didn't mean any of that. I raised an eyebrow. You meant enough of it. He shook his head desperately. Rosa, you know me. I'm better than that. I got lost. I messed up. But you were always the stable one. I need you. There it was, the truth beneath his apologies. Not love, not regret, need. Need for stability, need for financial safety, need for the emotional labor I used to give so freely. I kept my voice steady. No. He blinked, stunned. No. No, I repeated. You made your choices. I'm done. His face contorted desperation, twisting into anger like it always had when things didn't go his way. How can you be this ungrateful? After everything I shared with you, you think you're too good for me now. Ungrateful. Another word people like him weaponize. I stepped back from him, letting the distance form like a closing curtain. Take care of yourself, Lucas. I turned and walked away, ignoring the sound of him calling my name, ignoring the stares from people nearby, ignoring the sting of old trauma resurfacing. Later that night, he tried 2 more numbers, 2 emails, a message request on an app I forgot existed. I blocked everything. He didn't contact me again for a while. Too quiet, calm before the final storm. But the universe wasn't done drawing its poetic lines. Because there was one place I didn't expect to see him, one event I never imagined he'd attend, one moment where karma would deliver the cleanest, sharpest closure I didn't even know I wanted. A wedding, and not just any wedding. Mike's wedding. The man whose birthday party started the entire chain reaction that ruined him and set me free. I almost didn't go. Mike's wedding invitation sat on my kitchen counter for 3 weeks unopened, like a landmine wrapped in white cardstock. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Another part, the one that had healed, grown, evolved, knew this wasn't about the past. It was about showing up in the present as the woman I'd become. In the end, I said yes. The venue was outside the city, tucked into a hillside lined with string lights and soft music drifting across the lawn. Guests mingled over champagne, and the sunset cast everything in warm gold. I felt calm, centered, like I belonged to myself again. I wasn't alone. A colleague from my coding group, Ethan, walked beside me. Kind, grounded, quietly funny. He wasn't my boyfriend, not yet, but he was solid in ways that soothed my nervous heart rather than igniting chaos. We found our table, chatted with strangers, laughed at toasts, enjoyed the food. It was the most peaceful social event I'd attended in years. Then I saw him. Lucas stood near the back of the reception hall, half hidden behind a pillar, holding a drink, with a grip that looked more like a lifeline than a celebration. His shoulders were slumped hair, unstyled suit, ill-fitted like something borrowed last minute. He looked older, tired, diminished. Our eyes met. He froze. Shock, regret. Then something darker, hope, flickering back to life. He started toward me. I didn't flinch, didn't panic, didn't feel the old ache. Just neutrality. When he reached me, his voice trembled. Rosa, thank God you're here. Please, we need to talk. I kept my posture steady. This isn't the place. He swallowed, desperation shining in his eyes. Please, just a moment. Ethan glanced over from across the room. I gave a small signal. I was fine. Lucas pulled me aside near a row of twinkling lights. But even in the soft glow, nothing softened him. His pain was self-inflicted, and it clung to him like smoke. Rosa, he said again, voice cracking, everything's gone wrong. Adriana destroyed my life. Cheated, lied, drained my money. I lost my job, my friends. Nobody wants to talk to me. I'm alone. Completely alone. He searched my face, waiting for sympathy. I offered none. He pressed on. I see now what I had with you. You were loyal, solid, safe, in the best way. I didn't appreciate it. I didn't appreciate you. I was stupid. I was insecure. I was weak. His voice wavered. Please, Rosa, take me back. I'll fix everything. We can rebuild. I just need you. The plea hung between us like fog. I looked at him, really looked, and felt nothing. No anger, no grief, no nostalgia. Just clarity. Lucas, I said quietly, that chapter is closed. He flinched, but I apologized. This isn't about apologies. My voice was calm, level. You showed me exactly who you were that night. You didn't slip. You didn't make a drunk mistake. You revealed yourself. His mouth tightened. Rosa, don't do this. My family said you'd come around, that you're too soft-hearted to stay angry forever. There it was again, the entitlement. The assumption that my compassion was a weakness he could exploit. I'm not angry, I said. I'm just done. Tears gathered in his eyes, but even those felt manipulative, like he was performing for the last audience he had left. How can you be so cold, he whispered. I loved you. I need you. That word again. Need. Not want. Not love. Need. You needed excitement, I said, echoing his own words from the night he tore me apart. Remember something bold, something fiery, someone who made you feel alive. He closed his eyes, regret twisting his features. This, I continued, is the consequence of the choices you made. Movement in my peripheral vision made me glance over. Ethan was standing nearby, 2 glasses of champagne in hand, waiting respectfully. I nodded to him. Lucas followed my gaze. His expression collapsed when he saw Ethan, steady, confident, kind, everything Lucas had mocked and abandoned me for. He's with you, Lucas whispered. Yes. The single word hit him harder than any insult ever could. His face crumpled, bitterness flashing violently before dissolving into despair. You replaced me, just like that. No, I said. I healed. That's not the same. He stared at me, trembling. You'll regret this. I won't. I stepped back, letting the final wall rise between us. Goodbye, Lucas. He didn't follow, didn't shout, didn't fight. He just stood there, small in a room that once made him feel powerful. I walked away, my steps steady, my heart quiet. Ethan handed me a champagne glass, and I smiled, a genuine one, light and effortless. The band started playing a slow song. Ethan offered his hand. I took it without hesitation. We walked onto the dance floor as Lucas faded into the background. No longer a storm, no longer a wound, just a closed book on a shelf I would never open again. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. And this time the freedom wasn't an escape, it was a beginning. Months have passed since the wedding. Sometimes I think about how strange it is that a single night, a birthday party under dim lights, a careless laugh, a cruel sentence could unravel one life and rebuild another. Not because I wanted revenge, not because I planned any of it, but because life has a ruthless way of correcting its own imbalance. My routines are different now. Mornings feel lighter, the air somehow cleaner. I wake before my alarm stretch in the soft sunlight, make coffee without rushing. No more checking my phone with dread. No more scanning messages for blame disguised as concern. No more bracing myself for someone else's chaos. In my new role at work, I lead a small team. We collaborate, we challenge each other, we respect each other. The promotion I once turned down for Lucas became the first step toward a future I never thought I'd have. A future built on decisions that belonged to me alone. Therapy gave me back the parts of myself I had dismissed as too much or not enough. I learned the difference between stability and stagnation, between loyalty and self-sacrifice, between love and dependency. I learned that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it means walking away in silence. Ethan is still in my life. Not the center of it, not the purpose of it, just a steady presence that blends into the calm I've been cultivating. We're taking things slow, letting things unfold, not rushing toward definitions or expectations. He understands the value of quiet. He understands the difference between choosing someone and needing them to fill a void. I like that. As for Lucas, the last thing I heard came through the grapevine the way these things always do. He moved out of the city, picked up part-time work, somewhere far from the crowd that once fed his ego. He's repairing what little was left of his reputation. Maybe he's reflecting. Maybe he's repeating old patterns. Either way, he's no longer a character in my story. Just a lesson, a caution, a closed chapter sealed with finality. Sometimes on long hikes through quiet forests, I replay the journey, not to reopen wounds, but to honor how far I've come. The humiliation I once thought would destroy me became the catalyst that saved me. The betrayal that shattered my sense of worth forced me to rebuild it from the ground up, brick by patient brick. If you had told me then on that night when Lucas called me boring and laughed with the woman he betrayed me for, that I would someday be grateful for that moment, I would have laughed, bitterly, hurting deeply. I didn't know that freedom sometimes arrives disguised as loss. I know it now. So here's what I take with me. You cannot lose what was never truly yours. You cannot save someone who thrives on sinking. And you cannot let someone break you twice. My story isn't about Lucas. It's not even about Adriana or the friends who vanished when loyalty got inconvenient. It's about reclaiming myself after handing away my worth piece by piece. Now, when I look forward, I don't see fear. I see possibility. I see peace. I see a life shaped by my own hands, not by someone else's recklessness. And that more than anything is the ending I didn't know I needed.